Hi there everybody, it's Linnea for LDRS Creative and it's time for another exclusive craft kit. This one is called Pastry Pals and it includes some of the most wonderful products. Let's go ahead and take a look at this kit because everything here is reusable or non-expendable, however you want to say it. They are items that you can use over and over and over again, which makes this exclusive craft kit a phenomenal value. As always, the LDRS Creative Craft Kits are limited edition, and once they're gone, they're gone. You're not going to be able to get everything in this kit bundled together again. Now, not pictured here, you will be getting some colors of cardstock, but let's go ahead and take a look at what's included. So this is the Pastry Pals stamp set. This is a 4x6 stamp set with 5 of the most adorable little pastry pals. There's a cute little cinnamon bun. I colored these up for you and die cut them because I've already stamped, so it's kind of hard to see on a dirty stamp set. I apologize for that, but I thought you might want to see these all colored up. A little cinnamon bun, there's a donut with the accompanying donut hole, which is adorable, a Pop-Tart, a little cupcake, and a cute little muffin. And then there are coordinating sentiments that are going to go along with each of these little pastry pals that are fabulously punny and just adorable. You're going to get the coordinating die set for the Pastry Pal stamp set that's going to cut out all 5 of those little Pastry Pal images. The sentiments are like donut give up, you take the cake, there's just a simple happy birthday, a stud muffin, which is, it made me giggle. All of these little sentiments, they are just super funny. What's poppin' to go along with that little pastry tart, and just there's little sentiments in here too that are going to coordinate with these larger sentiments. And I like that there's a mix of fonts. So there's like a simple print font, but then you can also go ahead and color in a main word of that sentiment. I went ahead and for the purpose of this 5 cards 1 kit video, I stamped and colored and cut out a whole bunch of things so you didn't have to sit here and watch me do that. Also in this kit is this set of 3 circle layering stencils. Now you can layer these up or you can use them individually, and you're going to see me in this video layer up all 3 of them and just layer 2 of them. And don't forget that you can flip them over like completely upside down, right side up to get a different look, turn them 90 degrees, 180 degrees. The possibilities are endless with these 3 stencils. You can create so many different backgrounds. It's incredible the amount of backgrounds that you could create with just these 3 simple layering stencils. There are also these border dies, and these are the offset slimline stackables dies. So you can see here that they all have a cutting edge so that you can have a decorative border on your card, but some of them also have some fancy stitched details, and I'll be using a couple of those in this video. So let's go ahead and get started with my first card. I wanted to dive right into those circle layering stencils. I have been loving layering stencils lately. I've been having some problems with my eyes, and so layering stencils came into the crafty world at just the right time for me because it really takes the guesswork out of creating a background, and a lot of times you can have that shine and you don't have to work so hard on the little images on your card. The backgrounds can really make your card. So I went ahead and just took the first stencil. They are lettered. I believe they are lettered A, B, and C, but they might be 1, 2, and 3 down in the bottom right hand corner. But again, remember that you can mix these up, twist them, turn them, and I'll be showing you that later on in this video where I took a stencil and turned it to create a different look. I went ahead and I'm going to use some LDRS Creative Hybrid inks. I started there with Prickly Pear Perfection. This is Marina Madness, and I just switched over to the second stencil. I have everything taped inside of my stamping platform here. I temporarily adhered that card base with some temporary adhesive, and then I'm sticking each stencil into the bottom left corner of my stamping platform. But you don't have to do this. Like I said, the great thing about these circle stencils is that if they overlap, that's great. If they don't overlap, that's also great too. So you can mix and match these however you want. I'm going to finish up here with my last color of LDRS Creative Hybrid ink. This one is Banana Cream Pie, and I've just been using the LDRS Creative blending brushes throughout this stenciling process, and I'll use them again throughout this video. I've been loving these brushes. They work really well. They don't kind of clump up or anything, and they work really well with these inks. So I'm going over this whole stencil with that Banana Cream Pie ink, And then when I peel off the stencil, you're going to see my background. I almost went with pink instead of the banana cream pie ink, but I've been really struggling with cards for guys, so I thought if I added that yellow instead of pink, it would look more like a guy card. I wanted to use the little donut and his friend here, so I put him in the center of my card, and it was just missing something. So I decided to grab a die set from LDRS Creative that I have in my stash. This is the Elegant Stitched Frames Slimline die set, and I cut out a little decorative label shape here. And that's going to help my image stand out from my background by just having that little bit of white for him to sit on. I decided to color a different sentiment with my alcohol markers just because I didn't like the sentiment that I had already stamped and colored. I didn't feel like it was matching very much, and I wanted it to match the background a little bit more. I wanted just a little bit more color here, so I'm grabbing that banana cream pie, same color ink that I blended onto the background, and I'm going to lightly just blend onto the bottom of this decorative label shape from the Elegant Stitched Frame Slimline die set, and just come up and fade that out to white at the top, and I think that just provided that little bit of shadow and definition that I was looking for. I popped up the donut in the donut hole with foam tape onto that label shape, and then I also popped up that label shape with some foam tape onto my card base. I'm going to use a T-square ruler just to make sure that that is straight, but that is going to finish up the first card that I made with this kit, and I think it's absolutely adorable. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here, and for this card I'm going to use those dies that are included in the Pastry Pals Craft Kit, the Offset Slimline Stackables die set. I've also brought in a couple other items from my stash. I have the Sweet Sensations 6x6 paper pack and the A2 Stitched Layered Card Toppers die set. I used the largest of that die set to cut out just a piece of white cardstock, and now I want to use this fun scalloped edge border die, and I cut it twice from that same piece of white cardstock that I had cut with the largest A2 Stitched Layered Card Topper die set. I thought this kind of looked like icing, and so I have that sprinkled pattern paper. That's from the Sweet Sensations paper pack, and I have these cute little borders that I die cut from those Offset Slimline Stackables dies included in the kit. I have this adorable little singing cupcake, and I want to just have a little sentiment here and kind of have just like a little setback window almost peeking back on those sprinkles. I did cut the sprinkles pattern paper using the same die from the A2 Stitched Layered Card Toppers die set. It's a little bit small, but that's okay. I really just needed it to be the same width, and I wanted it to have that same stitched detail. It's a very slight and simple effect, but I think it makes everything go together a little bit better. I'm using a light pink ink from LDRS Creative. This one is called Pink Tutu, and I'm just going to ink blend over that scalloped decorative border, which I'm using as kind of like icing on this card. Just going to blend that, and again blending out to white, just having dark at the stitched edge and then blending out to a light pink and into the white area. I wasn't really loving how this card was looking. I thought that it needed to be smaller. There was just a little bit too much. So I chopped off the bottom of this card and made this a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 inch square card. So there's not as much of that sprinkle pattern paper showing through, but I think it's really cute. I don't think you really need a lot of it, just a little hint of that pattern paper, and it's super cute. I popped up those decorative edges with some foam tape, so those sprinkles look a little bit set back. Then I'm going to add banner edges to my sentiment strip, and I will tuck that behind that little singing cupcake so that it just has a more finished look to it rather than having a floating sentiment. I wanted it to look like it was peeking out from the side of that cupcake. I added some pearls from my stash in a rainbow assortment to match my cupcake and my sprinkles pattern paper. I kept that Sweet Sensations pattern paper out for this third card. I really loved the colors in this paper pack, and I think that it went well with the whole vibe of these Pastry Pals. So I found this adorable little polka dotted pattern paper, and I have another die from the Offset Slimline Stackables die set, and I love this kind of angled die. It's a really nice way to create an elegant and simple card. You're going to see how simple this card is. All I did was line up this die so that it's going to have a nice angle, die cut that pattern paper, popped that up onto a secondary piece of pattern paper, and I love this stitched dashed edging to this. I added the muffin and the little cinnamon bun and the I like the way you roll sentiment. I just bubble cut around that. Really easy card, probably the easiest out of the 5. Okay, so here's card number 4. We went from the easiest card to probably the most involved, but that's okay because I love how this card turned out. For this card, I was kind of playing around with all the different ways that the stencils can line up. Like I said, you don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. You can line them up any way you want. So I grabbed one of the stencils, and instead of centering it, I put it off to the left-hand side of the stencil. I'm coming in with my LDRS Creative blending brush and some Grape Ape Hybrid ink. I'm kind of tapping off onto my work surface so that I have a smooth ink blend. I don't want to have any real splotchy areas, and I happen to have a heavy hand when I'm ink blending. It's really easy for me to get splotches. So I'm tapping off on my glass work surface, but then I'm going back and I'm picking up that ink because I don't want to waste it by just tapping off on my work surface. And I find that tapping off on my work surface rather than tapping off on a piece of paper allows me to not really waste any of my ink. You can leave the background as it is. In fact, I considered doing that, but I wanted to add some gold spatters just to kind of fill in the area. And again, I contemplated leaving it just at that. But I decided to take that same stencil, rotate it twice, and adhere this back down onto my card. I'm going to shift it around a little bit. I'm just kind of playing around and finding a way that these circles overlap in a nice way. I'm going to be doing some foiling, and so it doesn't really matter if I'm completely covering up a circle. Like, see where that large circle opening is in my stencil? There's a small circle inside of it. It doesn't really matter because I'm going to be foiling over the top, so you're not even going to see that purple circle at all. But I wanted to have some nice overlap where kind of bigger circles were overlapping little ones and little ones were overlapping bigger ones. So to do my foiling, I'm using Deco Foil Transfer Gel Duo, and I've put some of that onto my stencil, and I'm just going to spread this evenly across my stencil. Now, because these are circles and some of them are fairly big, it was a little hard to get a nice even layer, but the trick really is to not go over it a bunch of times. I noticed some of the places where if the ink looks super bright, you probably don't have a nice covering of the gel. So I would go back in and just kind of touch up little areas, but you really don't want to put a lot of this gel on. You want a nice, even layer. And then you're going to set this aside to dry. You can see how right now this gel is wet. It's still kind of white, and you can tell that it's wet because the back of the card is going to be cool. Here's what it looks like when it's dry. It is completely transparent, it's still glossy, and it'll be slightly tacky. I'm grabbing a piece of foil, and I'm going to cut this down to size. When you're foiling, you want to make sure that the back side of your foil is touching your medium, so that's my gel that I stenciled over those circles. So the back of my foil is touching my gel. It's going to be pretty side up when you look at it. And I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. And the pressure from my die cutting machine is going to press that foil into those circles. And when this comes out, it just takes just a minute to run through my die cutting machine, but check this out. Now, usually I would add a shim because you can see here my plates are quite warped, and so it didn't quite press into all those areas evenly. That's no problem. I just replaced that foil and I ran it through a second time, and you can see now that it looks absolutely perfect. I have 2 of those little pastry tarts. I colored them to kind of match my background. I used that purple ink and the green foil. So I have a green and a purple little pastry tart, and I have the What's Poppin' sentiment that goes perfectly with these little guys. I've arranged them onto my card so that they look like they're running across my card, holding hands, just kind of running across that sentiment. I popped all of that up with foam, and check out this background. I used just one stencil, I rotated it, shifted it just a tiny little bit, but it's perfect. You don't have to use all 3 of those stencils at once, and in fact, you don't even have to add the foiling if you don't want to. If you just want to add just the one layer of ink blending, this card would be perfect just like that. For my last card, I decided to do a slimline card. And I wanted this card to be bright and happy and to incorporate all 5 of the little pastry pals. I've already used all 5 of them on the 4 previous cards, so I didn't want anybody to feel left out, so I decided to go all 5 of these little pastry pals on one card. I die cut a border using the Slimline Scallop die set, just from white cardstock, and now I'm going to do a bit of watercoloring. I'm using the LDRS Creative 4x9 watercolor paper pack, and I have some neon watercolors in my stash that I have not used, and I think that's just a shame. So I'm going to go ahead and use them on this last card today. I have a 1/2 inch, I think it is, just a flat watercolor brush, and I'm just going to freehand some stripes. I am not a watercolor artist. I'm not very good at it, but I can surely do some stripes. They are not even, they aren't straight, but that's okay. I went with diagonal stripes because I knew that I was not going to be able to paint a nice horizontal or vertical stripe. So whenever I'm freehand painting, I tend to go with diagonal elements because that's something that you don't really have to think about and you don't have to line it up too much. I tried to get the spacing nice and even, but you can see here, even that didn't work out so well. But in the end, this is my favorite card by far because it is so bright and so happy, and the freehand stripes just look so whimsical that I don't think it even matters that they're nowhere near perfect. I'm going to go ahead and just keep painting stripes, going through my neon colors here. They're not even in true rainbow order, but again, I don't think they have to be. I think it just looks fun and whimsical. When I'm done painting and I have that whole card front filled up, I'm going to go ahead and just heat set that with my heat tool so that it's nice and dry. And I've added some thin strips of foam tape behind my frame that I die cut from the Slimline Scallop die set. The background is too big for my frame, but that's okay. I actually prefer it this way. Rather than having to line things up perfectly, I like to make my backgrounds a little bit big, add my element on top, and then just use my scissors to chop off the edges. Again, if you look at this from the back, it's not going to be pretty. Those edges are not going to be straight, but looking at it from the front, you can't even tell, and it looks great from the front. So this is just my little tip. I like to cut things big and then trim them down with my scissors. I find that that makes it a whole lot easier, and I don't have to measure anything. I'm really bad at measuring things, so this takes all the guesswork out of that. I added all 5 of those little pastry pals to my card, and I added some foam tape to the back of them. You can see me here counting those little lumps in the scallop design. That is another trick for me to get my sentiment straight because I didn't want to pull out my T-square ruler, and sometimes even with my T-square ruler, like I said, I am not good at measuring things. So if I can count lumpty dumps or something like that, that is what I will do. I added a happy birthday sentiment at the bottom, and this card is finished. So here's a quick peek at all 5 of the cards that I made using the LDRS Creative Pastry Pals exclusive card kit. I'd love to know in the comments which one is your favorite. I definitely love the last one. That's my favorite, I think. I love this foiled one too. I think it's super fun. Adding little elements like a pop of bright color or a little pop of foil or something really makes your card shine and stand out. Remember that this kit is exclusive to LDRS Creative and it is limited edition, so you're going to want to head over to the LDRS Creative shop and grab yours while you can. I have listed and linked the kit as well as the additional LDRS Creative products that I used in this video in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye!